Hey, Matt Wilson here. This is my long-awaited Captain Beefheart video. I'm going to cover his whole career, all the albums up through Ice Cream for Crow. And then Bat Chain Puller, which wasn't released until the 21st century, but was recorded, of course, in the 70s. I'll get into all that. His catalog is not that vast, his discography, in other words, so it shouldn't take too long. All right, I'm starting off with the legendary A&M sessions, which consist mostly of 45s that he recorded and were released by the A&M label in the mid-60s, including the epic, Diddy Wall Diddy. That was one of the first Captain Beefheart songs I ever heard because it was on an old Time Life CD that I had in the late 80s, I think. It's pretty good. I mean, like everything that Don ever released, it's pretty good, except maybe the 1974 albums, but I'll get to that. So there's only 5 songs on here. So I know that there were 2 singles, so probably, the 2 songs that were on each 45 and then another song. I don't know. I haven't read the liner notes in a long time, but it's certainly worth your time if you have the albums but don't have this. All right? I mean, Diddy Wah Diddy's a great song, that alone. Okay, but the first real, Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band album is 1967's Safe as Milk. Safe as Milk, he's referring to mother's contaminated breast milk through pesticides or something like that. Some issue, I guess, that was floating around in the 1960s. This is a great album, whether you get it in mono or stereo. This is a stereo mix. I don't think I've ever heard the mono mix, to be honest with you. But it's also got a lot of bonus tracks, this Buddha CD. So it has the whole album in stereo, and then it's got other recordings made in 1967, which those sessions were going to produce the Mirror Man album, which I'll get to when I get to that story with the next LP, strictly personal. But this is a great album. This is a classic. This is still one of his best albums. It's accessible. Songs like Show Enough and Yes I Do and Abba Zaba, which that was the candy that he liked when he was a kid, Abba Zaba. In fact, this was supposed to be like an Abba Zaba candy wrapper, but the candy company wouldn't let him use. He was going to call the album that, I think, but they wouldn't let him do that. Anyways, one of his best. Nothing sounds like this. It's bluesy, as so much Beefheart music is. It's informed, by Delta blues, but it doesn't really sound like Delta blues. And then again, you've got that voice that Don's got, which is that weird mixture of, Howlin' Wolf. He can sound like Howlin' Wolf. And then just this kind of baritone that he uses. He has a nice speaking voice too, Don, if you've ever seen him. And he doesn't seem to be as weird when you see him interviewed as everyone describes him as. But of course, he'd have to be, right? He'd have to be able to put on that face in public. Okay, so let's get to Strictly Personal now. Strictly Personal came out in 1968. Like I said, he had recorded some sessions for Buddha in 1967, which weren't released. They weren't going to release it. He's on another label here. I don't even remember. I should have. Always, guys, I know I should rehearse these things. And, oh, well, I can't remember what. Liberty? Is that a label? Anyways. So he re-records some of those songs for those that he recorded in the 67 sessions in 68 when this album comes out. The songs are great. I Feel Like Acid. The song Safe as Milk wasn't on the album called Safe as Milk. It's on here. Son of Mirror Man, and later on, they would call an album Mirror Man, which I'll get to in a second. Beetle Bones and Smoking Stones. It's now some added psychedelic like reverberation, and phasing or whatever it was put on to these recordings after the fact by the producer that Don did not agree to, in an effort, to make it sound more contemporary and psychedelic, as if you could make Beefheart sound like what's on the radio, But that which causes some fans to dismiss this album. I like the record. Like, I like virtually every Beefheart album. So not the immediate, 5-star triumph that Safe as Milk is, but it's still damn good. Still damn good. Okay, so I may as well do Mirror Man now, just because it's chronologically. Mirror Man, or the Mirror Man sessions. This didn't come out until 1971 with this picture here from the Trout Mask Replica era, but it's from those 67 sessions. It's another great album. Looking at these songs, Tarot Plane is like, again, it's more bluesy. It's kind of, I guess, supposed to remind you of Robert Johnson's Tarot Plane Blues. Mirror Man, the songs on here. Candy Corn. Candy Corn had been on an earlier album, but this is like the longer version. There's more stuff, Beetle Bones and Smoking Stone, Safe as Milk, Take 12. It's another good album, though. It was a bit out of place in the early 70s when all those albums were classics, but it's still great, and it forms a perfect companion piece to Strictly Personal. And if you have the Safe as Milk CD, the Buddha CD with all the bonus tracks, I think you've got virtually everything that was recorded at these sessions. All right, so you can make your own, Mirror Man sessions if you'd liked. Okay, so we're up to Trout Mask Replica. We're going to round out the 1960s for us. Well, this is the album, isn't it? This is the first Beefheart album I ever heard. I think I said this on my 1969 show, but this is the remaster. I had a girlfriend in college. Yes, college. I never had a Beefheart album in high school. And her stepfather had this album. I was rummaging through his vinyl collection one day, and I asked him if I could borrow it. He said, sure. And I kept it for a couple of weeks, and I played it a lot. And I had heard that it was a difficult album, so I was prepared for it. I knew it was not going to sound like things I had previously, but I'd heard things like, Abba Zaba and Diddy Wah Diddy before this. And even though these songs weren't as catchy and commercial as that, there's something about this album. It's a double album. It's produced by Frank Zappa. I'm sure he was just, rolling the recorder, though. I mean, how do you produce Beefheart? But the Magic Band were living, and that band changed personnel all the time as Don kicked guys out left and right. But they were living, where were they? This was recorded in Glendale, which is not too far from where I am, in Valley Village, which is North Hollywood. It's like 2 communities away. They were living in Woodland Hills, which is also here in the San Fernando Valley, in this big house. They were poor. They were subsisting on, welfare and handouts and whatnot. And they would steal food. And Beefheart would terrorize the band. I mean, he would over-rehearse them. I mean, this stuff sounds like it's atonal and, all these polyrhythms, but that's exactly how he wanted the band to sound. That's what makes this music so special. I'm not going to go into Don's mental health at the time or ever, but there's plenty of interviews you can look up online about Magic Band members talking about him and sometimes his misuse of the band and but not. He would love to lock him in a house and make him record and whatever, and he can also be physically abusive. So you have to take that into account when you're looking at Don's relationship with his band members. But it produced a masterpiece. All right? And Frank and Don had been high school friends out in, Lancaster, I think, which is out in the desert surrounding LA. So I don't know if I would say make this your first Beefheart purchase, but it was mine, and it didn't scar me. But he would make more commercial music than this. Okay, 1970, Lick My Decals Off, baby. I can't believe I forgot to put this in my 1970 show, but you know why? I've been planning on doing this Beefheart video for a couple months now, and these CDs have been sitting on my table here, but this table is so filthy with stuff that I don't see these Beefheart videos. I mean, these Beefheart CDs when I'm rummaging through my CD collection. They're here, so I forgot about this. And I forgot about the next one in 72, but I'll get to that. So this should have been on my 1970 video. It's a great, it's very similar sounding, I think, to Trout Mask Replica. Can you see that? Well, anyways. Yeah, it's great. Lick my decals off, baby. I think he's referring to labels, you know, decal label, like he didn't want his music to be labeled, easily labeled. Yeah, this is a strong album. But again, telling you song titles is kind of important because you're not going to have heard them. They don't play this stuff anywhere. I don't think I've ever been outside and heard a Captain Beefheart song, not just on the radio, but at a party, anywhere. Beefheart's one of those, you know, artists that you listen to in solitude. Anyways, Lick My Decals Off, baby. One of his better efforts, I think. Okay, I'm going to go now to this Sun Zoom Spark 1972-1972 box set, which is a really cool box. It's got Lick My Decals Off, baby. It's got Spotlight Kid. It's got Clear Spot. And then it's got another, you know, CD of like stuff. But in 72, let's see, it comes with that's a cool picture, isn't it? It comes with a nice little booklet. Okay. In 72, he had two albums. He had Spotlight Kid. And now I can't remember which one was first, so I'll just do it at the same time. He had Spotlight Kid and he had Clear Spot. Now, I showed Clear Spot in my 72 video. I should have showed Spotlight Kid too. Definitely by Spotlight Kid, he's starting to move in a more commercial direction, but it works here. He had been tired of being poor. You know, I think this is another one, Spotlight Kid, where these are some of his paintings. He's also a painter. Where he had been living in the house with the band and not treating them well. The band doesn't like this album, the Magic Band. In fact, this is the first time it just says Captain Beefheart. It doesn't say and the Magic Band. So I don't know if he was pissed off at his bandmates when he made this or when it was released or not. But it's really good. And in terms of commercial Beefheart, it is by far the best. Definitely better than the two 1974 albums, which I'll get to in a second. All right? So I recommend this. It's something of a classic. I think this is a little bit better, though. Clear Spot. It originally came out in like clear plastic, and you could just see the album. So that's how they did the CD here. This is like another great one, like Lick My Decals Off, baby. But you know, Spotlight Kid was great too. That's why it's difficult to pick a favorite Beefheart album because he was remarkably consistent, except for the next two albums. I can actually see the songs here. Yeah, Love Yo Stuff. Oh well, you know, again, I'm not going to go over the songs because you're not going to know them unless you know the album already, and then you already know the songs. But it's great. And you can get it all remastered in this box set that I'm showing you. Okay, so that's it. I'm not going to go over the outtakes box or the outtakes CD. Okay, put that away. Yes. All right, so in 74, there were two albums. I'm going to do those at the same time. And this is where he really moves in a commercial direction. It's Unconditionally Guaranteed. And then, I wrote down the title because I can't see it. Blue Jeans and Moonbeams. These are the two worst Beefheart albums. They're not terrible. They're not unlistenable. But he's clearly toning down the weirdness to try to sound bland enough to be played on rock radio, which didn't work, obviously. They're not going to play Don Van Vliet songs on the radio unless you got a really hip station. Leave me some notes in the comments if you've ever heard a Captain Beefheart song on the radio and where, you know, what station was it and where and when. These two albums, I mean, I don't even have anything much to say about them individually because they're the same to me. I don't even know which one I like better or worse. I honestly don't know because I rarely ever play them. I own them to say that I've got them. All right? But he doesn't like them. when he switched labels again, he disowned these albums. So, not much to say about that. So perhaps adrift, tired of being poor, like I said, tired of not getting along with his band. He worked with Zappa again. He went on tour with Frank Zappa and the Mothers. And the Bongo Fury album came out of that. It's not really a collaboration with Captain Beefheart. It's more like a Zappa album because he's playing with the Mothers of Invention, not the Magic Band. With, Frank allowing Don to do some of his songs. Some of Don's songs. I used to not like the album that much. Now I think it's great. So if you're a fan of Frank or Don or both, pick it up. It's definitely better than the 274 Beefheart albums. Definitely. Maybe not as good as any Beefheart album from 69 to 72. Maybe excluding Mirror Man. It's probably definitely as good as Mirror Man. But it's still great. All right? Bongo, it's live. I think there were 3 or 4 maybe tracks that were recorded in the studio. But it's from that tour. And this one was recorded in Amarillo, Texas. All right? Okay, now, this is the second time in Don's career that he had recorded material, really good material, which wasn't released for years. I'll get into that right now. I'm going to talk about, I'll do this Shiny Beast, and then I'll do Bat Chain Puller, because that didn't come out until 2012, decades after it was recorded. Okay, so he goes into the studio with Zappa to do the Bat Chain Puller sessions. It's another great album. It would have been his best album since the 72 albums. This is a solid CD. But you can see all the material that's on here. Oh, you can really see that. That's nice. Oh, what's the story? Again, I should have researched. Zappa was producing the sessions, but the guy who was in charge, Cohen, I think was his name, was putting the money for these sessions through advances from Frank Zappa's music. So when Frank found that out, he didn't like it, so he withheld these tapes. And this album, that's why this album was not released for decades later. That kind of screwed over his old friend, Don, but he wasn't trying to screw over Don. He was trying to get his money back, I guess, which I don't remember whether... I read about the story before, but I can't remember what the result was, whether Frank, probably Frank got his money back knowing him, but I don't know. So a few years later, when all this was, settled, Don had to re-record some of this material, not all of it, and put out the Shiny Beast, and he puts Bat Chain Puller in, smaller down there. This is another round. This didn't come out until 78. There hadn't been a Beefheart album since 74, unless you count the Zappa live album in 75. This is another great album. This is another one of his candidates for best, it's certainly the best album he did at that second half of the 1970s. Well, it's the only one he did in the second half of the 1970s, unless you count Bongo Fury. But do I like Bat Chain Puller or Shiny Beast better? I've played Shiny Beast more. I've owned it longer than I've played Bat Chain, but they're both great. They're both essential to an understanding of this era of Don's career. All right, so this 2012, I think, 78. Get them both. Just like you need Strictly Personal and Mirror Man. Okay, from 78, here's a little addendum. This is something that Rhino Handmade did. It's live. Got the Beefheart and the Magic Band. I'm going to do what I want to do live at my father's place in 1978. It's good. It is the only live Beefheart that I have, so I kind of cherish it. It was put out by Rhino Handmade a long time ago. I don't know. I doubt it's in print anymore, but, check it out if you're a diehard. I don't know what it goes for online. It doesn't look like it's numbered, so... I don't know. Maybe it is still in print. I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's what he did, folks. That's what Don did. Okay, moving into the early 80s. We have Doc at the Radar Station. Some say the last classic album that he made. I don't know if I like it that much better than Ice Cream for Crow. But this is a nice I mean, I can't even say it's a return to form because, you know, Shiny Beast was a great album. So that's a better album, I think, than Doc. This is just kind of more of the same. He wasn't gonna, you know, forge ahead into new boundaries anymore because he'd already done that so many times. Nothing sounded like Beefheart then or now. Certainly not in 1980. So, I mean, yeah, I love Hothead, Ashtray Heart. I mean, I'm just looking at the first two songs there. This is another strong Beefheart album from a time when he was still, you know, a recording artist who wanted his music out there. This is Ice Cream for Crow in 1982. I was a senior in high school when this came out. It's, again, another good one. Maybe slightly less important than Doc at the radio station, but they're both almost the same in terms of quality. All right, there was a video made for one of these songs, and you can see it on YouTube because MTV wouldn't play it. But it's great, you know. He was firmly living in the desert with his wife, and you know, this little trailer he lived in. And I guess after this, he just decided to hang it up and become a painter. He had been tired of toiling away and being a visionary in the rock world to a largely indifferent response. You know, there's always been Beefheart fans, but does your average Joe Sixpack guy who loves Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd even know who Captain Beefheart was? You know, I'll be surprised. And if he says yes, can you name a Beefheart song or an album? You know, anyways. Okay, there's a Beefheart box set which I don't have. I think it's called Grow Fins. But this is a nice little compilation that Rhino put out, 2 discs covering his whole career. What's it called? The Dust Blows Forward, an anthology. The good captain. All right? It covers his whole career. If you don't want to invest in Beefheart CDs or LPs on vinyl, try this first. And of course, if you're on the social, or physical media, then just check him out online. Check him out on Spotify, if he's on Spotify. I don't know. YouTube. But that does it. I can't think of anything else to say for Don Van Vliet, Captain Beefheart. So this is Matt signing off until next weekend.